Okay, so as we're recording this, news is that Chester Bennington has just died of Linkin Park. Thoughts?
It's bloody hard to comprehend another one of our idols and musical heroes leaving this world. It's crazy. Like, after a few weeks ago, Chris Cornell dying as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the thing is that, you know, obviously they come from the same sort of family of powerful voices. For me, Bennington's amazing because of the visceral growl that he had. It's something that I thought really lent itself to the music and perhaps to creating somewhat of a cathartic effect for anyone listening. You know, that's what it was for me anyway.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I know a lot of people sort of who don't like them. They sort of describe the music as very angsty and stuff. But the fact is though, like, yeah, his voice combined with their songwriting abilities and stuff, they produce some amazing stuff, some gold. I think, like, particularly like the first three albums. I guess most people are most aware of those.
Yeah, they were the high points in the sense that it was a particular style, that new metal sound, like, and
fusing that electronica sound kind of thing and rapping with a
hard edge heavy metal kind of vocals as well. And I think the thing is that, you know, with Bennington, like, did you know he was abused when he was younger?
Yeah, I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, so I mean that obviously played on his mind and affected his mental health, and
yeah,
I think you know, the idea of people addressing the inner demons, it just brings that to mind. You know, that's why I found it really emotional when I heard the news. So, how did you first come to Linkin Park?
It's a really good question. I kind of remember, like, the first thing I ever listened to. I honestly can't remember. How about you? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, very, very well. Miami Vice. Yeah,
that was the first time.
The film with Jamie Foxx. Unfortunately, it starred Jamie Foxx and Colin Farrell.
There was some good moustache in that film.
Well, good. Michael Mann, the great filmmaker Michael Mann, introduced me to all this great music. So you know, how would you describe Chester Bennington's voice live?
The time I remember most was just the first time when you probably remember it too. We had this really simple stage setup where it was just like
3 boxes.
Yeah, 3 big black boxes at the front of the stage, and I thought it was actually ended up being one of the most brilliant shows ever, because it drew attention just to those guys, and it really allowed him to kind of, like you said, like, allow those primal screams over the whole audience, that sort of stuff, standing on one of those boxes,
powerful,
crouched like an animal.
Those guys like Shinoda just jumping on those 3 black boxes and just singing to the crowd.
They're all going off. It was a really good show.
So, any favourite song from Linkin Park?
Oh, look, I'm a sucker for songs like "In the End" and "Numb." I know they're the most popular ones. Yeah, From the Inside is very good as well. Crawling's fantastic. Yeah. There's so many good songs. I mean, I even like some of the stuff they did on Reanimation. I thought that was kind of clever, some of the stuff they did. What about you? What's your favourite sort of?
I have to say Faint.
Faint
really lends itself to karaoke, let's say.
I could have guessed that, because I believe you've sung that before, and in fact I believe I've sung it with you.
Yeah, maybe just on occasion.
Yeah.
And essentially,
it's
one of his great songs. Oh, well, Linkin Park's great songs, I should say. And you know, I remember doing it in Japanese karaoke in Japan with you.
Yeah, it's so sad that a lot of these guys just have, again, so many demons, and obviously they, you know, end up being such creative and wonderful people, like, and it's just it's a sad day for music, that's for sure.
And one of the great songs was Shadow of the Day, and
that was off one of their later albums.
Yeah, Minutes to Midnight, and you know, if you listen to the lyrics on that one, I guess there's a lot to be said for, you know, his views on death. And anyway, let's get into this episode. So let's move on to maybe talking about a bit of travel. Do you want to start me off with an idea?
One of the things I was wanting to talk about the travel is just the idea of how luck plays often a big part in what you end up doing and kind of how you end up experiencing places. In terms of specific cases, like I don't know, I remember I don't even know.
Can I remind you of an incident in Italy? So we were in Rome and we're trying to fly to Sevilla in Spain, and unfortunately all the all the taxis were on strike, which means all passengers in Rome were trying to take trains to the airport. So we were heaps early to the train station, and by the time we made it to the airport, we were late.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, we missed the flight, and we had to stay 24 hours in the airport because there's no other planes out, and that knock-on effect happens. I guess, we saw quite a few protests in Italy, and that was one incident of bad luck. However, also incidents of good luck. Do you remember when we went to Western Europe, we left Australia Christmas Eve and we landed Christmas Day in France. So we headed straight to the Champs-Élysées and some mulled wine, and that was...
it was delicious.
Some good luck there where we, managed to make it sort of just in time for Christmas. Yeah,
yeah, it was a good night.
Yeah. Do you have any other recollections about lucky times at travel?
I had this, like... Oh, it was just a story for you. It was called London Luck and the Fat Duck.
Yeah, give me a story.
Yeah, do you remember these 3 words or 3 phrases?
I remember we went to the Fat Duck restaurant, Heston Blumenthal's restaurant, just outside London. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm sure I told you the story before, but you may have forgotten. But I'll tell you anyway. But do you remember, London? It's a little bit outside of London, right? It's in a place called Bray or whatever.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. Yeah, maybe an hour by train.
Yeah.
And I remember getting the train out there. It was really nice countryside and stuff.
Yeah.
And then from the train station, I think it was still a little bit of a hike to the restaurant, so we just ended up getting a taxi. Do you remember that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't get to the restaurant without taking a car, basically.
Yeah, it's difficult
from the station.
It's quite long
from the station. There's no public transport.
Now, do you remember the taxi? That's important in the story.
Taxi got us there efficiently enough.
Do you remember what type of taxi it was, though?
No, not really.
So it was one of those bigger taxis with, 5 seats in a disabled seat in the back, one of those ones.
Yep.
And it had one of those sliding doors, the big sliding doors. Yeah. And funny enough, it was quite big, so even the front seat needed like a step to get up to the top.
Yep.
And you got in the front seat.
Sure.
And as you were stepping up and you got in the front seat, I sort of stepped up to go into the back, but stupidly I sort of put my hand on the edge of the door, the door frame.
You slammed it.
Yeah, and well, you didn't realize that I did that, so you actually slammed it all really hard.
Did I?
And and I'll tell you what happened. So my fingers were okay.
You're making me feel bad now.
Well, that's okay, but just So
I'm sad now.
No, it's an interesting story.
In fact, I'm depressed now.
Luck. No, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to be depressed because nothing happened, But so my hand's on the door frame, and I look at the taxi driver, and I just sort of smile, my usual sort of hello, and he looks at me in horror, taking my hand away as quick as I could.
Yeah,
and you watching the door that you pulled slam against the door frame, and I was like, oh man. And so I do believe in a little bit of luck. I don't know. I think that's a very, I guess you could consider that just lightning reflexes. Do you believe in luck for a start?
The beginning of a Woody Allen movie called Match Point really highlights my belief in luck. It's got to do with the scene is a tennis net. You see a ball in slow motion going across the net, and essentially the voiceover states something along the lines of, life's dependent on luck, and it's scary when you sort of realize that so much is out of your control. And I think that, little luck, the ball drops in, little luck against you, and, the ball doesn't drop in. And, I think a lot of things in my life have basically eventuated with that kind of framework, if you like. Do you think a lot of big events, decisions have occurred that way for you? A ball dropping on the side of yay or nay?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess there's always those little courses in life that you end up taking, and it can be from the smallest thing, I guess, from a mark in a paper, or from just a word of advice from someone, and then you end up flinging down this other path. I don't know. Yeah. So, what else do you remember about these? Besides luck, I guess different things in Western Europe.
I remember really fostering, I guess, a love of food, and I think food, in essence, became something really special because I got to experience all these very unique cultural foods in their original context.
Yeah, I think like the idea of obviously experiencing culture through food is a huge thing, you know, like and I always think it's sad, like, I mean, I've always loved food, so it's been easy for me, but I think it's really sad if you don't love food, because when you travel, that's so much part of the journey. Yeah, like it's how you learn about people, it's how you learn about, you know, delicious things, and but also about the region, you know.
Well, you know, I just think back to our travel to Siena in Tuscany in Italy, and for me, there was a turning point, like, in terms of my love of food. That was when we went to this place called La Taverna de San Giuseppe, and had the most amazing Florentine steak there.
It was ridiculously good. It was, I think it was
thick and juicy.
Yeah, it was the best steak I've ever had, I'm pretty sure. It's cooked to absolute perfection as well.
I remember they brought out the steak for us to check it, like raw, in its raw state, prior to the chef cooking it.
Yeah, I think it's to check it, but also to proudly display it. Like, they were just looking, it's this massive T-bone, and
and then they. Oh, sorry, you.
Oh, I was just gonna say they take it out back and they cook it, and then the chef carves it up for you in these lovely little bits, and it's like I've never seen a more perfectly cooked rare steak. It was just like if you pulled out like a ruler and you measured like the gradients and stuff in this thing, it was crazy.
I remember the chunky pieces being carved up as well, and just the seasoning being applied to it, and you know, just
like the spice rub sort of thing.
And the fact that you know, we got it piping hot off the chopping board, it was great. Do you have any other memories of food in Western Europe?
I'm pretty sure that very same restaurant had a what was it? An entree of like boar.
Yeah, the most amazing ragu. Yeah, the most amazing ragu.
There was
tagliatelle.
Yeah, I mean, and this was before the Florentine steak. I mean, it was quite gluttonous in a way, but in terms of flavor, oh man. And I think that was your first experience with the ragu.
Yeah, I've never had a
virgin ragu.
Up to that point, and that really lush, thick meat sauce. It was so hearty. It was a great meal, and it made me really search for great food.
Yeah, just search for more experiences that were going to blow your mind with the palate. Do you remember in France? We had some pretty interesting stuff. We had a lot of baguettes. They were amazing. Delicious. Every day.
So crisp, fresh, light, and fluffy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know...
And massive and cheap.
Yeah, I think baguettes and croissants, they really won me over in France. They were my favourite things. I ate a lot of those. And
I did too. It was epic.
What do you remember the croissants there?
Oh, they're just so, like, the thing is, like, you think it'd be easy, like, to make this thing, but it's just not. And
it's an art.
When you get the ones in France, the fluffiness, the goldenness, the evenness of all the pastry, like, everything is just perfect. Like, on every single one, it's ridiculous. Like,
often I find, like, you know, when you get a bad croissant, it's so much like bread, but you never got that in France. And
it's just a light, fluffy delight.
I remember being outside Pigalle Station early in the morning. I don't know if you remember this. And we could smell the waft of fresh croissants. And so we walked towards this little whatever bakery, and they're literally just straight out of the oven. And they're so buttery and light and fluffy and crisp on the outside.
Yeah.
You know, literally it's melt in your mouth stuff.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. Like, you could eat 100 croissants from different pastry, like not even from supermarkets, but from different, like, pastry people in Sydney, for example, and you still wouldn't find a croissant as good.
No, you make me want a croissant now, though.
I know, I really want a croissant. If anybody knows where a really good croissant is, please tell us. But but the other thing with France, though, I remember, I don't know if you remember, in Lyon, having a delicious thing called andouillette.
Oh, that wasn't for me.
You remember that?
You kind of got me. You sort of pulled the wool over my eyes and got me to eat that. I didn't realise till later it was full of offal. Well, I didn't realise until I cut it open it was full of offal. Yeah.
But was it delicious?
Not really, no.
I think it could have been delicious before you found out.
Well, as soon as you cut it open and the freaking offal's there, it's not exactly delicious, is it? You know, it wasn't for me.
Look, I thought you were very adventurous, though, like trying it. And I think that's good. Like, you've carried that adventurous spirit through.
Do you remember also in Paris we had a steak tartare?
Oh yeah, delicious steak tartare. Yeah. And again, probably the best steak tartare I've ever had.
Yeah, place called the La Pure Cafe, and it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, we went there because it was out of a film that you love. Yeah,
and it was amazing that particular dish, and just everything in terms of French food, Italian food. They were great. You wanted to talk about something to do with.
Last week we were talking about op shopping a little bit, and and then this week I thought we'd talk about, you know how I'm often referred to as a frugal person. Would you refer to me as a frugal person?
I would say you're the king of frugality.
The king of frugality?
Yeah.
Okay, I could wear that crown quite happily. But, yeah, one of the, I guess, like, over the past, oh, God knows, I don't know, 5-10 years, I've really tried to live my life by this idea of frugality and kind of...
Where did you get this principle from?
Well, I mean, I guess a lot of it comes from minimalist type thinking. The ideas of sustainable living and that sort of stuff. Being able to live in small spaces and without so much reliance on stuff we have. That sort of stuff. But and I think it's benefited my life in a lot of ways over the last 5-10 years, and I think recently you've become more frugal. Is that right?
I'm trying to follow the same principle, and just trying to develop or cultivate that within the framework of minimalism as well. So I think it's important. But what's the secret to your success? You are pretty good at it. So what do you think are important things to consider?
Well, I think the like a really simple thing to do is just never go shopping. Yeah.
Shopping gets you into trouble.
Okay, it's quite a general statement, but like...
No, it can get you into trouble, though, because you end up buying a lot of stuff you don't need. I think that's one of the biggest problems, like buying more than you need.
See, I guess the thing is, despite, having developed a bit of a love for op shopping, the regular shopping thing, I still hate it. I hate every element of it. I hate dedicating time to it.
Hate's pretty strong.
Well, okay.
You'd use the word hate, shopping.
Well... I loathe it.
Yeah,
that's still quite strong,
I would say I dislike shopping.
I really don't enjoy it. I mean, like, I guess sometimes there are maybe exceptions to that rule, but in general, I definitely don't enjoy the process.
Why do you think people love shopping so much? Is it the instant gratification aspect of it?
I think that's a huge part of it. Like, I mean, and look, I've been gratified instantly for sure. Oh, yeah. Like, it happens.
Well, it happens to everyone. Yeah, when you buy something, you hope that you get some kind of,
it's a good feeling. It's a good little rush. Yeah, it's a good little dopamine hit to your head, to your brain. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, a lot of that sort of stuff is obviously driven by, everything that we see and everything that,
Do you think it's good to buy cheap all the time?
No, definitely not. See, I mean, I think, one of the things, when I say never go shopping, obviously it doesn't mean never. Like, it basically means, like, spend the money if you need something, for sure. Like, you need food, obviously, you need to pay your bills, you need to, go out once a week, for a meal or whatever.
Sure.
But as far as, like, just buying stuff, as you said, that you just don't really need, that 50th pair of shoes or whatever it is. I think the thing is, though, is that one of the things that maybe, like, it kind of goes against the main idea of frugality, but I do find that if you need something in particular, like if you want to get like a decent laptop, for example, just get whatever the hell you want. Like, just pay whatever the hell you want and just buy it.
You should buy on a needs basis.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and then, like, even though that's cost you a fair bit of money, like that product's probably going to last you for, I don't know, 5-7 years. I mean, that's what I've generally found.
Well, as you know, over the last 12 months, I've cultivated this theory of buying cheap shoes for exercise, because
how's it working out for you?
Well, here's the thing. So every 3 months I'll commit to buying like a $25 pair of runners from a cheap department store, but I use it on cement, do a lot of stuff that will basically induce a hole in it. So so buying this repetitively, I've now thought, well, I'm just going to get one good one. But
I do think one of the best ways to do it, I don't know if you do this, but a lot of people, me included, put every bit of spending just on their credit card, just put everything on there. And main reason is just because then you can just track exactly how much you're spending every month. and it's not even about the points or any of that. Like they're mostly pretty shit programs, but but the fact that you can just see exactly everything you're spending. Going, okay, well, I'm spending too much or I'm spending too little. It gives you an easy way to track it.
Yeah. Okay, so did you want to discuss some MMA?
Of course. So we've got a couple of big fights coming up. What's the biggest fight on the horizon? It's got to be DC and Jones, right?
Yeah, DC, Daniel Cormier versus Jon Bones Jones.
I
think this is going to be an interesting match. Second time they've been scheduled to fight each other.
Yeah, well,
first occasion, Jon Jones won.
Yep, by decision.
Yep, and
out wrestled the wrestler.
Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen here?
Well, before we even think about that, it's definitely, I think, something that's very historic that's happening with these two fighting. So? Well, because DC, everyone, kind of is doubting him a lot and kind of thinking without this victory over Jones, he isn't the champion, he doesn't have a legacy. But the thing is, I think, is that Jones has been out of the picture for so long now that DC actually does have a legacy. Yeah. And it's just that his story includes Jones now as well. So I think despite what happens here, it's going to be very, very interesting. But, can DC, handle Jones's counter wrestling and his wrestling? And I don't think he can. I think Jones is probably, even though he's been out of the game for so long, his creativity, his ability to adapt and change things in the ring probably will be too much for DC to handle. I think it'll just mess with him.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, based on their first match, what happened was that, DC had success in the clinch, dirty boxing from a short distance. When it was at distance, he got into a lot of trouble. And also in a freer wrestle sense, he also found difficulties. So I guess my thought here is that if he can stay in the clinch, work some dirty boxing, and perhaps pull off some trips rather than actual takedowns with the arm. So if he can pull off some of those kind of moves, I feel that he'll be better placed to win. And if he gets Jones down, I think he can take it out from there.
So you think he can out-clinch Jones?
I'm saying that's his path to victory, yeah. For Jones, path to victory is keep distance, strike at long range, and at select times, perhaps when DC's tired, going for the wrestle.
And the other thing that's happening in MMA that probably no one else is talking about, so we should just quickly talk about it, is Demetrious Mighty Mouse Johnson versus Ray. Who the hell is that?
He's your favourite fighter, isn't he?
He's amazingly
Demetrious
not
Johnson?
My favourite fighter. Yeah, and Amanda Nunes as well. Well, it's just look. It's one of these things that. Do you remember it must have been more than a month ago now. Dana White, the president of the UFC, said something about axing the flyweight division.
That's right, but it's not being axed.
But of course he's not being axed.
No, he scheduled this title fight for Demetrious Johnson.
Yeah.
So you're excited about this Demetrious Johnson fight?
No, I was just going to talk about the whole. Is this going to sell cards? Do you think?
I don't know if it'll sell hugely, but certainly interesting. Because
do you want to see the flyweight division?
Not particularly. No.
Would you like to see it axed?
I think it wouldn't necessarily affect the level of my fandom. Yeah,
I would like to see it axed actively. I don't know. I always think that there does come a point where it just gets a bit silly because how small do you want to make it? You can, I don't know. You could get little 45 kilo dudes to go in there or something. I don't know. I just think it's probably
it's a tough one when, as a fan, you're sort of, this is probably terrible to say, but when you're actually bigger than the fighter you're watching, it has a different kind of feel to it.
It just has a different feel, yeah, that's right.
So, shall we wrap it this time?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for episode 3. Two brothers and a microphone. Till next time.
See you next time.